Well, it was the first double DNF of the season for Ferrari and the second 1-2 finish for Red Bull, with George Russell, Mr. Consistency as he might now be known, bringing up third to round out the podium in what was a very hot race in more ways than one, wouldn't you say?
Oh, absolutely. It was this was one race I expected there to be a lot of carnage in, and it was kind of like it reminded me of Miami in the sense that you saw a lot of problems in practice and qualifying, and then the race was very clean.
Yeah, actually. I mean, there was a lot of DNFs, but no collisions.
DNFs,
So,
the only time safety cars came out were related to mechanical failures. There were
yep.
no crashes in this race.
And what I think is the first time we've had only the same power unit fail. Like, all of them were Ferraris, which was
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's times where it's been only Red Bull, but that's because maybe they're the only one that failed,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
but
But
as
yeah.
far as multiple, in this case, 4 cars retired, all of them Ferrari, 3
Yeah.
for sure with power issues, 1 with a hydraulic issue that may or may not be related to the power unit.
Okay, I need to actually take that back because late in the race, Lance Stroll retired. So,
Yeah,
they're
that's
they're on
true, and they're
Mercedes.
Mercedes,
So
yeah.
so that
Uh
aside, it was Magnussen, Joe, Leclerc, and Sainz all Ferrari power.
What was his retirement due to, though? Because you did have
Stroll's
an
I
Al you had an
hmm.
AlphaTauri that was retired due to a rear wing issue.
No, they actually taped it up and he kept going.
Oh, okay, you're right. They were threatening to
Yeah,
retire. He
yeah.
got black flagged or he got orange and
He
black.
he they he could have been, but yeah,
Yeah,
they were like, "You need to bring it in and repair it."
yeah, yeah.
So,
The commentators were predicting he wouldn't come back up, but he did. So,
right. Yeah, I think it was kinda sneaky because they just slapped some tape on it and sent him back out before the official got there.
what was Stroll's issue though? Did you?
Strolls? I'm trying to think. I should have that in front of me. Let me try to do some Googling real
I'm trying
fast.
to.
I don't recall.
But did he I think he made it back to the pits. He wasn't stranded on track, was he, or
I
was he?
believe so, yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't
Let
know
me
why we're both
see.
blank on that, but
Yeah,
probably
I don't know.
because it wasn't that important. I mean,
All things considered, I mean, he was all day in the mid-teens position, so, like, yeah.
the most interesting thing about Aston was how well Sebastian Vettel was doing and how poorly Stroll was doing.
Right. Right.
Yeah, Vettel is settled into the car and he's doing remarkably well. And honestly, Stroll's lack of driving skills is now becoming more apparent, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that. We saw one time during the race where, Vettel like messed up the corner entry or something and he just immediately took the escape road and immediately didn't even stop nothing, immediately flipped the car around and kept going and only lost maybe 6 seconds because of it. And I'm like, wow, what a pro move from Vettel there.
Yeah, yeah, that was during the race today, and oh, it
Yeah,
was, and
yeah,
he lost several positions, and it took him the whole
a
race to
couple,
kind of
but
build back up. He lost several,
yeah,
unfortunately, but um,
yeah, but I mean he still finished sixth,
yeah,
so like, not that bad.
no, 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 and it would have been obviously really even when you're talking about Russell and Hamilton and the rest of them, you can add 2 to everybody if the Ferraris had not DNF'd. So as far as actual position, they're only higher because of the DNFs of Ferrari.
Right,
Assuming that the top 4 cars all finished, then everybody just, in theory, like in other words, you can't draw too many conclusions.
right, right.
And you can and can't unless the Ferrari. Well, we'll get into that. We'll get to the power units, but
Right.
if it's an ongoing issue, which now you're starting to wonder, then
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
maybe let's start with the reliability angle because if you remember before this season actually properly started when we were just talking on the phone about
Mhm.
the whole thing, there is a development freeze on engines at the end, well, power units at the end of this season, which means that they can continue to develop in the sense of reliability. but not in the sense of performance.
Okay.
So my prediction was that some of these manufacturers, particularly Ferrari, who was totally revamping their engine for this year, that they would skimp on the reliability and put their focus on performance right now because they can, and they can continue to develop performance now, and then later they can fix the reliability stuff because they won't be able to fix the or to improve the performance. And so I predicted that there would be an unreliable but very strong engine from Ferrari, and that's so far kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah, that I don't recall the conversation, but yeah, I don't know how reliability is hard to test for in a closed environment.
True. True.
The you know that it's race conditions that are going to determine reliability, but I must say that I'm surprised with the reliability of the Ferrari a little bit, considering that they've been, this is what they do. They build
Absolutely.
exotic, high performance motors. So in other words, I don't think it's the way you stated it sort of sounds like it's an either or. You either have reliability or performance. I
Oh
think
no, yeah, that's not what I mean. I
yeah,
just mean
I
that
think you can
it
have both and you can engineer both at the same time. But high performance.
No, I just mean that their resources are more focused on performance for right now, which is
Mhm,
speculation entirely. I have no
yeah,
data to back
yeah.
that up, but, you know.
Well, yeah, I mean, high performance engines always are fickle. That just
Yeah.
by definition, and reliability is in quotes. So even a quote
Right,
unquote
right.
reliable Formula One engine, and we've talked about this before, means maybe it goes two or three races and then it's lived up to its expectations.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's not like our consumer vehicles where, nowadays from a good Japanese car like a Toyota, well maintained, you should be able to get at least 300,000 miles for it. And if you really maintain it and change oil every 3,500 miles, you can go longer than that.
Mhm.
If you have a good one and really take care of it. So there's plenty of them pushing between 3 and 400,000 miles, but for me, a high performance engine, no way.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely, a dragster engine, one or two runs, that's it.
Right, yeah.
So you're talking literally a half a mile in a dragster motor.
Right. Don't they completely rebuild those dragster engines after, like, nearly every
They
run?
do. They tear them completely down and inspect everything just
Yeah.
because of, like how fickle it is. But that doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily mean they find problems. But
No,
if
yeah,
they do, they
but still.
replace it. But I mean, after they do have a limit, they'll run them a couple times and then they start replacing things. And
Yeah.
what amazed me is with those engines when I've seen them when I've been at the drag races and watch them tear them down is that the amount of oil. I mean, it's
Yeah.
gallons, like 5 gallons of oil, or something like that.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
Wow.
But anyway, and that there's a question. I have no idea how much oil a modern Formula One engine holds.
Let's see
So
if Google has anything.
yeah,
I did manage to find out why Lance Stroll retired. It was a suspected engine issue, so nothing clear
okay.
from Lance Stroll. But
The sensors were showing something and they didn't want. Well,
yeah.
while you're looking that up, I have, the other thing with the Ferrari is that they're in a bind now because um they had to borrow a turbocharger early on in the season. And so they're on their they have a power unit, they have an engine, but not a turbocharger for Canada. So they either have to get the turbocharger off this car that had the
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know if that's for Science or Leclerc, but for one of them, it's I think it might be Leclerc or Science, but they have to get the turbocharger either off the one with the that had the problem today or the one from Barcelona that they retired
Mm.
because that's the one where they like stole a turbocharger ahead of it and they just put a brand new motor in for this race. So they're on their third motor for this weekend, this race. So they're in trouble because they've if they have a fourth power plant, I should say power unit, and everything else is new, then they will absolutely have a 10 place grid penalty. If they're able to steal one of the turbochargers off the other one, they can use the third engine and not have a grid penalty in Canada.
Right, right.
So and they're all these teams are starting to. I think Lewis is on his last motor and something like that, or
Their
only
last
has one
allotment
left.
already?
Well, yeah, that's you and I had talked about maybe doing a bit on that. That's why I wanted to get into it. It's really interesting
Oh,
which teams
wow.
are at that point. So it's going to start playing into the strategy. And we probably
Yeah.
should we have Canada next weekend, but the next time we have a bye weekend, we should probably go through those numbers because
Yeah, yeah.
it is going to have it's a super important issue that's going to start having a big effect on the teams because even Ferrari now they had a double DNF and they might have a grid penalty in Canada. So these problems start to compound as the season goes forward.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. So and then you can have a team like Alpine or something if they're not burning through power units, all of a sudden they start McLaren or whoever, they start doing better.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, but
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that I mean, it was only a couple of races ago that Ferrari that Leclerc specifically got a new engine. Was it Spain or was it the one before that?
well,
But it strikes me as not that long ago, but it may be
I
by
think
engine
that was
terms.
Barcelona that they put one in, but I also thought they have three they can play with. But I think they did put a new motor in for Azerbaijan.
Oh,
At
really?
least in one of the cars. One of the cars had a new
Okay.
power unit. I think it was Leclerc.
Okay. Wow.
And yeah, for this race. Now, that doesn't mean that they wouldn't go back to, power unit number 2 in the future. But
Right,
for
right,
this
right.
race with the, 1.3-mile straightaway, they wanted a brand new power unit. So, and
It
then
makes sense.
yeah, and hopefully the hydraulic unit, and it paid off until it didn't.
Right.
But hopefully the
Yeah.
hydraulics had something to do with, bolting that into the existing, gearbox and everything else in the braking systems. And
Yeah.
the power unit itself is fine. If that's the case, all is well. But who knows? And who knows what
Yeah.
damage was done when the hydraulics failed?
Yeah, you never know. It could be just like no other systems were impacted, but it could be like the entire engine seized or something. I mean, who knows? I mean, probably not that, but
Yeah,
it could be
probably not.
something more catastrophic. But yeah.
Yeah, there's just no way of knowing. I don't know.
Yeah.
I honestly don't know other than what they use hydraulics for in these cars, honestly. I mean, I don't
Like
know how many
everything apparently.
systems. Well, I mean, what does that mean though? I don't know. I'm trying to think of what the systems. I mean, technically a braking system is hydraulic, but I think it's like the louvers, maybe like the rear wing, the
Oh
DRS
yeah.
potentially is hydraulic driven. And
But the onboard sounded like it had something to do with the actual engine or not. I don't know. It didn't sound the engine didn't sound right on the onboard shot from
no,
science.
so I'm
So,
thinking it has something to do with gear shifting as well. I don't think
oh
it's
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
think it's
That
strictly
could
a
be.
mechanical linkage like in a car, like
Oh,
one of our
that's a good
cars.
point. I remember seeing on Science's wheel, it said the little number where the gear to show what gear you're in. It was
Yeah.
2, which normally you would want to go down to 1 and then neutral, and it was just sitting on 2. So maybe it was maybe that was the issue,
That could
but
be it.
I don't know. I did find how much oil is in an
Okay.
F1
And
car.
this is the 2022 car?
No.
Okay.
The most recent one I was able to find was as of 2017.
Okay, well, that's
So
probably close enough.
close enough. Yeah. It's measured in liters. Do you want to take a guess?
Measured in liters, so you're gonna have approximately 4 liters per gallon. So, I would think I have a diesel truck that uses 3 gallons of oil, so that would be 12 liters. I'm gonna say 16 liters.
Wow. You are way off. It is 3 liters.
What?
Yep. This is
No.
from Formula One dictionary.net. So
3
I don't know.
liters? Less than a
Could be
gallon?
wrong.
That can't be
The
right.
and yeah, the quote from there is the engine oil capacity is about 3 liters or so. So it could be more than that. It could probably vary depending on the manufacturer,
They
but
must have meant gallons, which would be 12 quarts or 12 liters, unless
I don't know. That's what I found. Could be wrong.
yeah, that
Check it
can't be
yourself. I don't
right. Yeah, that can't be. I call BS on that one.
know.
So yeah, there's no way it's less than a gallon. I mean, my daughter's little Toyota Corolla uses 4 quarts or, almost 4 liters. Come on now. And
Yeah.
that's an 1800
I don't
cc
know.
non-turbocharged engine.
I mean, I'm sure if I had more attention to give towards more in-depth Googling, I could find a better answer. But there you go. That's what we got for now.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So what's do you think at this point, maybe it's a
Mhm.
little bit early and kind of a I don't know, knee-jerk reaction kind of thing, but do you think Ferrari still has a shot of winning the constructors at this point?
Well, this is an interesting one because I think the constructors is I mean, technically, mathematically, of course, the answer is yes.
Right.
Because we're only a little over a third of the way through the season. So
Yeah.
mathematically, yes. From a practical probability sense, so possibility and probability, two different things. Possible, sure.
Right.
Probability, it is possible if they start winning races and they fix the reliability issues, and Red Bull has a couple more DNFs through the season, which is entirely possible. You can have a tire go
Mhm.
down like Max did last year at Azerbaijan that ruined his
Right,
race in
right.
like 2 laps to go or whatever. So, yeah, I mean, it is possible. It's not out of the realm of probability at this point, but the problem is they've had a string of bad luck. Leclerc has, because he's driven just amazingly. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
I think he's got 4 pulls now that have no 4
In a
pulls in a
row.
row that have not
Yeah.
translated to victories. The last
Yeah.
time that happened was like 2002 with Juan Pablo Montoya when he was with
Wow.
Williams BMW. And so it's a 20-year-old record, something like that, that he just tied. It doesn't happen a lot, but I mean, his qualifying lap on Saturday was amazing.
Outstanding.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was just perfect. I mean, and that
Yeah.
track is brutal, so
Yeah.
you have to be so precise.
Yeah.
And we're going to another track that can be brutal in Canada next weekend. But Leclerc is the real deal. He performs under pressure. It's just
He
his
does.
car let him down. He had bad luck in the pits at Monaco. He easily could
Yeah.
have won Monaco. This is what happens in racing. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but the thing is that Red Bull is consistently good, and they're always there to pick the pieces up if you want to hand them to
Yeah, yeah.
'em. So,
The last 4 races have been, Miami, where, these are all pole position, weekends for Leclerc.
mhm,
Miami, where he finished 2nd, so that's not that bad. But then Spain, where he DNF'd, and then Monaco, where we know that was just last time out, where he finished 4th after qualifying on pole. And then this week, where again he DNF'd. So it's 2 DNFs in 3 weekends
mhm.
and 4 weekends where he got pole and hasn't won, and it's just that is all of it has not been his doing, and
No.
that I think is the key. Where Miami, Verstappen just had a faster car over the race,
Yep.
and then obviously the DNFs are not his fault, and then Monaco, that was a strategy decision that I don't think he was involved in, and so it was like it's just bad luck, I just when his engine blew today, I literally was just, like, screaming. I was like, "No, why? Not again."
Oh, I was sad for him too, and I'm
Yeah,
a Red Bull fan, but I love Ferrari too. But I
yeah,
felt bad because it's there's nothing he could do, and he's had this kind of thing happen to him lately, and
yeah,
I felt bad for him in Monaco
and
for
he
the same
sounded
reason.
so dejected in that interview
He
too.
was, he was. It's
Like,
just like
oh
he's
man.
doing everything he can, and the problem is that Ferrari. There's just so many things go through my mind. Number one, qualifying is not racing, and I've mentioned that multiple times.
Yeah,
This just
absolutely.
underscores it.
Yeah,
Quality's quality, racing's racing, and
yeah,
there's so many. Qualifying's almost like just a lone. It's like a bowling, one guy goes out and you just see how he can do, like on the,
yeah, yeah,
you're not really you're competing against everybody, but you're competing against nobody, you're out there to set the best time.
Yeah.
But racing is a whole different thing because there's so many different strategies and pit strategies
Yeah.
and just weird luck that comes into it. Who can pit during a safety car? Who can't? I mean, I thought Leclerc was going to walk away with this race.
Yeah, I
Now
mean,
Checo, although when Perez got in front of him and turn one, which that's a very short run up to turn one and
that
everything,
is.
and yeah,
That
at
is.
this track, and I was surprised. It's like, wow,
I was really, really surprised by Verstappen's launch. He just had nowhere to go because it's a tight street circuit.
right, right,
If you saw the overhead shot that they did
yeah,
on the replay,
I saw it.
he had an absolutely insane launch, but he just had nowhere to go, so he had to
Right.
back out of it.
Yeah, he had to. Because,
Yeah.
you don't wanna lose the race isn't won or lost on the first turn or the
Right,
second
right,
or the
right.
third.
Yeah.
So he wisely backed out of it and then went ahead and won
Yeah.
the race later, which is good.
Yeah.
I think Leclerc, he's an amazing driver. He's extremely good. And early on, I speculated, okay, he's won a lot of stuff at the beginning. Let's see if he has the mental fortitude to once the honeymoon period's off to
Yeah.
perform under stress. Well, I'm more than convinced after the last few races that he is the absolute real deal. This guy does not crumble under stress.
Absolutely.
So he has the mental fortitude to win races if you put the right car under him and you don't give him and he doesn't run into circumstances that take it away from him.
Yeah.
So, but this same thing again, we've seen Red Bull. There was a point where we started questioning the reliability of the Red Bulls, and lately they've
Mhm.
been better, and now it's Ferrari. So, um,
You know, that's a good point. It took a double DNF and then another DNF, like the next. It all gets kind of jumbled up. It was either the next time out or the time after that, for Red Bull to be like, okay, we have got to fix this.
yeah,
But it took like a double DNF for that to happen, and maybe that's what we'll see here with Ferrari, where they're just like, yeah, we had a couple of DNFs or mechanical issues, but like we'll deal with it, no big deal. And then they get a double DNF where they're just like, okay, we got to fix this. So
right,
maybe, I mean, it's they've got a very short break between the
yeah,
next race now. So maybe by the time Silverstone comes around, which is in two races,
yeah.
they'll have much better reliability that they'll carry on throughout the rest of the season.
Who
I mean, who
knows?
knows?
Yeah, yeah. There's no. They could find it tonight or tomorrow
Sure,
and
yeah.
then fix
It
things
could have just
or
been a
not.
bolt that broke or something. Like, who knows?
Yeah, who
Like,
knows?
it might not be a fundamental issue, but
There's
yeah,
no way of knowing. Or it could be something where they take the engine apart and go, we have no idea how this happened.
yeah,
and
yeah,
then, like we're going to have to really dig into this and, put it under an electron microscope. And, because some things aren't apparent to the naked eye. If you have some, you just never know what could do it. So,
right,
and
right,
but it's just one of these things, like bolts. A bolt can be fractured and you can't see it
right,
with the naked eye. But if you look at it under magnification, oh, there it is. Yeah,
right,
this
right,
is a bad batch of metal or whatever.
right.
But yeah, yeah, who knows? That's gonna be. There's a chance they're gonna have to take a grid penalty. Maybe, maybe not in Canada. Let's hopefully they can avoid that. But
Yeah,
but you have to now see. Here's the strategy again. What's worse, a guaranteed penalty or a maybe DNF 2 races in a row?
yeah.
So that's
I mean,
that's
yeah,
literally what their choices are. And as a team, they'll make that decision, and everybody will live with it.
yeah.
So yeah, but
And
that's going to be
looking at
interesting.
the, Canada circuit, there's a chicane halfway down, but it's got a massive straightaway. So you're flat out for a while, then a chicane, then flat out for a while
Yeah,
again. And it's like,
and it's a
you
street
know,
circuit, not
yeah,
unlike where
yeah.
we
I just mean it's got a
Azerbaijan. Yeah,
similar feature to what we saw in Azerbaijan
yeah.
today. So,
Oh yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely. So,
yeah,
and there have been some spectacular crashes in Montreal there. So
yeah,
we'll
yeah,
see what happens again. The Circuit des
yeah,
Bienvenus.
yep.
Yep, that'll be interesting. Oh, and okay, since I was going to tell you this earlier and you wanted me to save it. So during the post race program, what they
Which
had
I
one
did
of
not
the
get a chance to watch. So go
right,
for it.
right.
What you got?
So But I watch all the pre-race, the race, the post-race. I watch everything I can because, you know, sometimes I only learn one little bitty thing, but that one thing is important. In this
Yeah.
case, they had a test driver, relief driver, extra driver guy that was interviewing with Roseanne Tennant, and
Okay.
he mentioned, oh, and I think they were Gasly was there, and they were talking, or no, it was Daniel Ricciardo, and
Okay.
who we need to talk about him and McLaren too for sure. But anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
he said something like, "Oh, well, you know, it's supposed to rain." And Daniel's eyes just got real big, and he, all of a sudden he went. You could just see him go like, "Oh crap,"
In Canada? It's supposed to rain in Canada?
Yeah, in Montreal next weekend. It's right now. It's
Oh.
supposed to rain, and he was saying, "Well, I hope we get at least one dry session so we can see what the car is doing, and that kind of thing." But
Oh,
so,
man.
oh yeah, so we get a
Dude, okay, we
doo-doo.
have gotten the most outrageous season so far.
If we get rain in Canada,
Like
oh
Miami
my
was not
gosh,
that wild of a race, and
no.
honestly, Azerbaijan today was not that wild of a race.
And we didn't get our rain. We didn't get our rain in Miami that we hoped for. So
Yeah, I know, but every single other race has been wild.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, and except for this, the practice and qualifying were wild. The race itself was pretty
Oh, true.
mild.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
maybe we should touch on
today.
qualifying a bit because that was bananas
Quality was crazy.
yesterday.
Yeah, there was so much nutty stuff that went.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can touch on it, but yeah, this I think now who knows? I got cheated out of my rain in Miami, so I don't wanna, I don't wanna talk too much about Canada and rain, but it's not out of the running here, out of the realm of possibility in June. Like Canada, it rains all the time. I know in Western Canada, where my wife's from, it rains all summer long.
Yeah.
It's warm too, but it rains, and so Canada's far north. It might easily rain in Montreal this time
You
of
just
year,
you
so
just got to do your rain dance all week this time.
yeah.
So,
Thank you. Yes, I'll add that to my morning ritual,
yeah.
set an alarm on my phone,
Yeah.
do rain dance.
Yeah, but man, that would be wild because rain always I mean, we saw that in Monaco.
Yeah,
Monaco is usually an absolute snooze fest, and then you throw rain into the mix, and suddenly it's one of the most exciting races of the year.
yeah.
So,
It's even
yeah.
and it's gonna be it'll be more exciting in a faster track like,
Yeah.
Canada or Miami or Azerbaijan, it's gonna
Yeah,
be or
yeah.
Baku, I should say, but, it's going to be a faster yeah, in Canada, it will be an issue because, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
The speeds. Did
Yeah.
you see the speeds they were hitting at the end of the, straightaway today, by the way, when they showed it on the screen? They were doing
Yeah,
well
it's
they
pretty
were doing
wild.
over 200 miles an hour.
Yeah, which I mean, they're clearly capable of that, but they
Oh,
don't
yeah.
often get the opportunity to. And
No, but,
so,
the indie guys are gonna go, "That's nothing,"
yeah,
because
they're
they're like
cruising at 220
yeah,
around,
220, 224,
Indianapolis,
yeah,
but yeah.
yeah, that was crazy too, but
Yeah.
yeah, but of course, but in a course like this where you're going fast, yeah, you're going through these,
Yeah, yeah.
the castle section, where,
Yeah, that
you know,
honestly, the Baku City circuit is for a street track, it is such a cool track.
oh yeah, it's awesome.
Like, they're literally racing through and around a castle.
Right,
Like,
right, yeah, yeah, they have, yeah, padding around a turret,
I
a
know.
round turret. Yeah, it's wonderful. They
Yeah.
actually put a guy up there. He wasn't there all the time, but he went from like one window to another with the
I saw
cameras, the
that, that
car
was such
too.
a
That
cool
was so
shot.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Alright, so picking up the pieces as usual is Mercedes. And there's something in particular I want to talk to you about. I don't know if you caught it, but what do you make of Mercedes's fortunes today?
Well, I have something I wanted to get into a discussion about Mercedes because I have a theory that they're up to something.
Okay.
And that being Lewis, well, so we'll get into that after we go with maybe the technical results. I mean, Mercedes did well today. There's no two ways about it. They placed third and fourth, would have been obviously, at least Hamilton would have been 2 more positions down, and probably Russell if the Ferraris had not DNF'd. So it's
Yeah.
really
I think
more
there's a
like a
fair shot of
5
that,
5
yeah.
and 6, position, which is good. I mean, that's
Yeah,
kinda better than they've been doing, at least for Hamilton.
yeah.
So they have resolved some of the speed issues, but not the porpoising isn't slowing the car down as much, but it's, beating the tar out of the drivers.
Yeah.
At least it's making it very uncomfortable for them.
Yeah, even
And
Russell, who's the young gun on the team, even Russell was saying that it was affecting him. And, like, he
yeah,
hasn't so far complained about it hardly at all. I mean, he's complained about it, but not in the sense of
he doesn't complain
my
though.
spine is killing me, which is along the lines of what Hamilton said today.
Well, that's Lewis. Lewis, I now this is what I'm getting at. This is what I'm getting at. So
Okay.
Lewis, he's like, guys, my back is killing me, and then he goes on to just like go fast and pass gasoline, do everything else. So it's like,
Yeah, but
oh,
did you
how
see
bad is
him
it
try to
really
get
hurt?
out of the car at the end?
Oh yeah. Do you believe that
I
it
don't
was really that hard to get out of the car? This is where I'm going. And here's why.
I
Here
okay, I think
here's
that's a
why.
stretch.
Here's why. I think he was hamming it up a little bit. And it's not unlike British drivers to do things like that. But I think he was hamming it
Eh.
up slightly because um the FIA has hinted around that if the porpoising or the bouncing becomes an
Oh.
issue, then they may have to see what can be done. And I think Sir Lewis is so sick of Russell doing better than him. He's looking for a way to even the score.
I
Um,
mean, I don't know that we need to go there
well, no,
necessarily.
I
I
mean
mean,
that's a
him
conspiracy theory, full on. My tinfoil hat. I put it on. I put it on when you weren't looking.
okay,
But
okay. I didn't know we were putting on our tinfoil hats for this.
well, I did. So
Okay, okay, okay.
I broke it out just for this conversation.
Okay, okay.
But because that's really what I was thinking. It's like Lewis is super competitive, and you can tell when he's kind of stretching the truth a little bit. He's like a little kid, he doesn't lie well. And I saw the interview with him afterwards, the post-race interview, and he was kinda hamming that up again. Now,
Hmm.
and Russell went out of his way to bound out of the car and bound up the stairs for the podium ceremony and leap onto the podium, and then afterwards, he's like, "Oh, yeah, it was brutal, but, so what?" He was kinda like, "Yeah, we gotta get it fixed, it was
Hmm.
brutal." But it had no effect on him. And then Lewis can barely get out of the car, and then Russell's leaping and bounding like a little rabbit. So it's like, okay, guys, this is the same car. So
Yeah,
and if anything, you'd think the tall, skinny guy's he has more spine to get compressed. It's gonna be harder on,
which
on
might
Russell.
be helpful, all things
I
considered. I don't know.
I
I
don't
don't know how
know. I don't
spines
know.
work.
There's more room there to hurt things. I think Lewis was playing it up a bit, because he wants it fixed because he hates the car the way it is.
And see,
But
to me, that's all the motivation that you need to point to is he hates the bouncing in the car and he wants it fixed. Whereas Russell's not that bothered. You don't
yeah,
necessarily have to jump to which granted is a tinfoil hat conspiracy.
I'm not jumping there. I'm just saying, is it possible? Like
Well,
the
yeah,
conspiracy
yeah, I
theory
guess.
people
I
do.
guess.
Is it possible that
But the one thing I wanted to talk to you about, did you catch what happened with the initial batches of pit stops during the first VSC?
Yes, yeah. Lewis had a 5.4-second pit stop,
Yeah.
and that was weird, and I could not see the reason why.
Was it just the slow pit stop or was there more to it than that? Because they did double stack the cars. I think he might have been queuing behind or like waiting behind Russell to get done with his pit stop. I don't recall offhand.
Well, I don't know, I think he came in. I can't remember who came in first, honestly.
Russell was
But
ahead. He was
and
ahead.
it's not like they had to wait for tires. I watched that. They weren't waiting for someone to show up at the right tires. It looked like the guy in the rear jack that has the rear of the car just simply did not release him. He would not
Hmm.
lower the jack, and he was
Well, we saw
waiting.
that
He was
multiple
I
times.
It looked like he was waiting for the right rear tire gun guy
Okay.
to hold up his hand and say, "Okay, we're good."
Okay.
So, yeah, that's what it looked like to me. It looked like to me it was a pit crew error where somebody was just forgetting that everybody has to raise their hand like, "I'm good," everything's on, everything's good.
Okay.
And he's not gonna release the car until everybody does it, but, it doesn't take long. I mean, a 3-second, 3.2-second pit stop is okay in this day and age. They've gotten better with the
Yeah.
heavier tires, but 5 point whatever,
Yeah, 5 is
5.3,
outrageous.
5.4, that was
There
horrible.
there was a couple of times with Jax in particular. Some of it seemed like it was a mistake. Some other times, like what you're
Yeah.
describing, it was deliberate. But there was a few times with the Jack man, not just for Lewis, but I think it happened with Leclerc and Perez and maybe a few other people. So, don't know. It was a weird day for pit stops.
Yeah, there was somebody else, I can't remember who it was, but the front jack got stuck under the car, and the guy had
Yeah,
to yank it. Yeah, I
yeah.
remember that, and then, but this one I thought might be the same issue, but it really wasn't. You could see the jack guy looking at over at the pit crew on the right. It looked to me, it could be the right front, but I thought it was the right rear. And then finally,
Okay.
he just yanked it out. It's just like because they're kind of looking at him like, "What?" And he's like, "You didn't signal me, you moron." So,
Right. Yeah.
that's the
Okay.
conversation they had
Okay.
later, probably.
Probably.
But
Well,
that's what I took
the
it.
Okay. Well, the result of that was that they went into Lewis basically went into the pits 6th and came out of the pits, I think 12th, might have been 11th,
Yeah, he was way down there.
way back. And so I was looking at that going, I didn't see that what you described about the Jack guy, but I saw that and I was like, what is Mercedes doing? Like they
Well,
just completely screwed over Hamilton with that. But
you got to remember
maybe that was just a mistake.
he was one of the first 3 people into the pits. So, I obviously, as other people pitted, he quickly rose back up through the ranks. But
That is true.
yeah,
He did make up a couple of places, but he still had to overtake several people on the road to get back to where he
yeah, and
was.
he was going to anyway because I think he was. He did lose a couple seconds though in the pits, no question.
Yeah.
But but the cars were spaced pretty far apart. I don't think it cost him too many positions. But he was down since he pitted early, there was a moment in time where it looked horrible, then pretty soon he's back up to, like, 7th or something, and then when you
Yeah,
had
he was 8th for a while. He was able
then
to
you had the
get
Ferraris DNF, and then, he's all of a sudden he's 6th, so,
yeah.
and then he
But then he still had to pass 2 people. I think it was
yes,
obviously Gasly, but there was somebody else, maybe Ricardo or
um,
somebody.
he had to pass, Ocon, so, I think
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
so, yeah, that was and that was tough, it took him a
Yeah.
while to get around the Alpine, so and then he had Gasly, and I was surprised. The AlphaTauri seemed to be running well, but once he got around Gasly, he just took off. Lewis did so.
Yeah, honestly, I was a little bit surprised given their showings so far this year, but the AlphaTauri seemed to love this track.
Hmm.
Before Sonoda's rear wing issue, he was up, I think, 6th, 5th, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, they were doing really well. Gasly qualified really well and held on to a top
yeah.
5
So it
finish.
was.
So like,
I think Mercedes did well, but just to finish my point,
oh yeah, yeah,
if the Mercedes if the bouncing is harmful to a driver, then the FIA can come in and say, they can mandate things. Now the fear is that they would say, okay, you're exempt from this rule, make the car safe, and then all of a sudden they've got a special car that nobody else has. And
well,
that
I
would,
don't think they would do that. I
well,
think they
that, I
would
mean,
do
that
some
the only reason
blanket
I mentioned
statement to
that,
everyone.
the only reason I mentioned that is there was discussion today about that. And one of
Yeah,
the, during the race, and Peter Windsor's talked about that too, that it would not
yeah,
be fair to the other team. So there's a
right.
possibility that that could happen. Whether or not it would, I hope it wouldn't. But it's
I hope it
Mercedes,
doesn't.
and they have a relationship. So Lewis could have intentionally been hamming up the back problem, in order to create that very scenario.
That's possible. Yeah,
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was getting at. So, but because clearly Russell is weathering it better than he is. So,
yeah.
he's going to want to eliminate that. It's an extra penalty to him at this point for whatever reason. Could just be age, or it could be the fact that he's in his what 15th season, and his body's battered from he's
Yeah.
been bouncing around like this for 15 years.
Yeah.
So, and that it takes a toll,
Yeah.
and that's just the facts of life. So,
Yeah.
anyway, but that's why I just hope that nothing happens that gives Mercedes an unfair advantage, but it would not be the first time if it did happen.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair. I hope they don't do anything. I'm already kind of I don't like the FIA's over involvement in the regulations anyway. And so if they did some kind of blanket statement of like all of you teams have to have, I don't know, this active suspension system or something just to prevent the porpoising or something. Like I don't think that's fair to the teams like, well, in particular Red Bull, but then I think
yeah.
McLaren doesn't really have porpoising that much. And so it it helps disproportionately teams like Ferrari, honestly, which would potentially give them
Ferrari has it just as bad, but it doesn't affect their
yeah,
performance.
right, but it
Um,
could potentially give them a massive performance advantage over Red Bull, and,
right,
like, that's
right.
not fair, so I
No,
I
it's not.
really hope they don't do that.
And the bottom line is Mercedes can eliminate the problem by raising the ride height.
Yeah.
Now, it's gonna reintroduce porpoising, but at least it's not gonna be going down the
Right,
road, and
right.
they're not gonna be
Yeah.
bouncing around like crazy like that.
But to me, the FIA should take a standpoint of, "Those are the rules, deal with it."
Or
Like
yeah, or they measure because some crew member told somebody this weekend that the, impact on the driver was 6 Gs. So all of a sudden, this is everybody knows all the stats all of a sudden, we haven't
yeah.
heard any of this before. But let's say it's true. Let's say there's 6 G of, spine compression, and it's happening constantly. Well, then, the FIA can say, okay, look, a driver can be subjected to no more than 2 Gs, on a regular basis, and you have to make your car fit that profile
Yeah.
within the rules, or
Yeah, and
we're
to
going to
me
black flag your car. Now that's fine with
absolutely.
me. If they do
Absolutely.
that, that's fine with me. That
Yeah,
would
no, me
not
too.
bother
It's
me.
make your car safe or don't run it.
Yeah,
Like,
you have to play by the same rules, but you have to make your
yeah.
car safe.
Yeah.
And
Like
then
to me this
yeah.
this is the pinnacle of motorsports. These are the best engineering departments potentially in the world. If they can't fix this within the confines of the rules, granted, but if they can't fix this, tough luck. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
just deal
and I
with it.
think well, yeah, now and again, the fear is everybody thinks that Mercedes and Lewis are gonna get special treatment from the FIA,
Which
and
is
they're gonna get
not
some kinda
surprising from
well,
for
yeah,
Mercedes.
I mean, it's happened before,
Yeah.
and, that's what they're kinda going for, but, because whatever, they brings he's everybody loves Lewis, and they bring so much money into the sport, and blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah,
but
blah,
to
blah.
me, I don't care about the Mercedes angle. What bothers me the most is the Ferrari angle because Ferrari would have a massive benefit from that,
Yeah,
and that's not fair because they're in a tight. They're still, even though they're 80 points back from Red Bull, they're still extremely competitive with Red Bull, and that would make it so unfair.
yep. Yeah,
So
but their
yeah,
drivers aren't complaining, which is interesting to me.
they're not complaining probably because the performance is still there.
Yeah, well, who knows, and that's
Yeah,
and I think their porpoising is different because if you look at Red Bull they nailed the design. This is what bugs me about the whole thing. The
yeah,
Red Bull car, if on this track, because it was a bumpy track, the Red Bull car was bouncing a little bit, but the driver was not.
yeah.
So thank you, Adrian Newey, Mr.
Yeah,
Genius. He figured out a way to make this happen where
yeah, that's why
the
they pay
car
him
can
the big
move
bucks.
and the drivers don't. Now,
Yeah,
if somehow Ferraris give or Mercedes and Ferrari whoever are given some dispensation where you can bend the rules or rule whatever doesn't apply to you as long and as long as it creates undue you know pressure on the driver or whatever then it's not fair because then Red Bull's gonna say, hey guys, we engineered this out of the car. If they can't figure it out, they
yeah,
have to make their car safe. Maybe they have to go slower. Maybe they have to raise the ride height instead of being
yeah,
right on the pavement. they've got to be in half an inch or an inch above if that's how they have to deal with it to make it compliant with the safety rule.
Yeah.
And that is Mercedes' problem. So I think the FIA is going to be aware, but they may not be able to touch this with a 10-foot pole, um, unless there's clear danger to the drivers. So
Yeah.
I think that's why Lewis was being a little, shall we say, Lewisy, or it could have been 100%
Theatrical.
legit. It could have been legit, but
Yeah.
he was certainly accentuating it, whereas his co-driver was not. So whatever that means.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Even if it was legit and he was actually in pain, he still was making a show of it.
Yeah, yeah, he
So,
was. He was.
yeah.
He was being
Which I mean,
dramatic. He was being
fair
dramatic.
point.
Let's put it that way.
If you want the rules to change, you got to do something. So,
Yeah, yeah, you're gonna have to try and get people's attention and
yeah.
that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
he would only be doing that if they kind of had a feeling it would change in their favor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's why I went, I don't know. I smell a rat over here.
Yeah. Yeah,
There's
no,
something going
that's
on
fair.
here. Yeah. So that's, yeah, maybe not so much of a conspiracy theory after we talk about it for a bit.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Crazier
whatever.
things have been done.
True, true. But yeah, my personal opinion on all of this is I just hope the FIA, unless the drivers are actually injured, which there doesn't seem to be any data to actually support that. But if that actually ends up happening, then maybe do something. But until then, I hope they just do nothing. That
Yeah.
they're just like, look, you guys got to deal with it.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
then even then, if they do show that their drivers are being injured, I hope the FIA says make a safe car or don't run it.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe demand the same data from all teams saying, "Hey, show us that your car is safe for your driver."
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then the teams just have to fix it. Like I don't want any, because they wouldn't give special treatment to like Mercedes and Ferrari. What they would do is give a blanket statement to all teams of here's a fix for porpoising,
Well, we'll see.
which they would have to engineer ahead of time anyway. But
Yeah,
like,
they should put
but still,
sensors. I mean, if or for at least 2023, they should put sensors under the seats and they should measure the G forces on drivers.
yeah, yeah,
If it's going to be that big of a deal,
yeah,
the seats have to contain a G force thing that where the telemetry goes to the FIA and they can monitor it actively.
yeah.
So,
That's a good solution.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Anything else that's kind of stuck out today?
Well, okay, we can talk about McLaren a little bit.
Yeah.
They kind of let Daniel come in first, which was good. I mean, he kind of needed a boost. Lando wasn't thrilled with it, but they let it happen. Um, and I saw in the post race interview, he was like, "Well, I'm fine. He helped me out earlier, but yeah, they just, yeah, they didn't want me to get in front of him. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think Lando had a faster car, but they didn't want him, and maybe they didn't want to take a chance on a crash, which I'm sure they didn't. But at the same time,
Yeah.
Daniel did drive a clean race.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what did they finish? Sixth and seventh, something like that.
They
So,
finished
seventh and eighth.
eighth and ninth,
Eighth and
actually.
ninth, okay.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that was okay. So what was the order? Obviously, we know the first three. We had
Yeah. Final finishing order was Verstappen, Perez, Russell, Hamilton, but then Gasly, and
yeah.
then Vettel, then Alonso.
Vettel was right after Gasly. Okay, so
Yeah. Vettel in sixth was
he
pretty
was
crazy.
very good.
Yeah. So he's at least making the best of the new redesigned
Who
Aston
was
Martin.
in sixth and seventh?
Vettel was sixth.
I mean,
Seventh was Alonso,
there you go. Okay,
and then
okay.
Ricardo, and then Norris in eighth and ninth, and then
Uh,
Ocon in 10th.
yeah,
So both Alpines in the
top
points,
10.
which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and
So
Vettel well in
and
the
Vettel,
points.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. This
How
is
about that?
good. I like. It was an interesting top 10.
Yeah,
If you look at
yeah, yeah.
how many world champions finished in the top 10, how many championships
All of
are
the
there?
current world champions finished in the top 10.
Yeah,
All of
yeah,
the world champions that are still racing
yeah.
finished in the top 10. Yeah.
and that might be a first. Is it a first? I don't know.
First of the year, maybe. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, I have to go back and look. But that's
But
interesting.
yeah.
Very, very good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, this year without Kimmy driving. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
so
right after that, which was kind of sad, Bottas in 11th. And I'm like, I know they had a rough time in qualifying and he
yeah,
barely made it into Q2, but like I was hoping he would finish in the points again. I just love that guy. But
yeah. But they have a Ferrari engine too, so he may have
yeah,
dialed it.
so
He
maybe
may
they
have
didn't want to push
he
it. I don't
probably
know.
dialed it back a little bit. They
Yeah.
probably put him in like power mode 2 or something or 3, you know.
Yeah, yeah, something.
So he stayed up, but yeah, it's I was sad to
Oh,
see that.
I just remembered. There was something else I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah.
What happened with Haas? They had such a strong start to the season. Have they just been outdeveloped by everyone else, or what do you think's happening?
Well, you know, I don't know. I today they seemed it's hard to say. It
Because
really is
Schumacher
hard to say.
qualified 20th, which was the first time he's ever done
Yeah,
that.
he started at the very bottom. He passed um Latifi early on, so he
Yeah,
was
he but
19th.
he that was the only person he passed. I mean, he finished second to last on the road. It was 14th because of so many DNFs.
Well, they had to
But
rebuild his car too, so
well,
or,
okay,
well,
yeah.
from, Monaco,
But
but
still, like,
yeah, I don't know what's going on with Haas.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Let me just
Um,
take a look back. In Bahrain, Magnussen finished literally 5th and
yeah,
Schumacher 11th. Like that's just wild. And then in
right.
Saudi Arabia, Magnussen 9th. And then where's he must have been had a DNF. I'm not seeing him. He might not sure. And then Australia, Magnussen
Hmm.
and Schumacher 13th and 14th, so that wasn't great. But Schumacher was 13th and then Magnussen 14th. And then Imola, you have Magnussen 9th, so again in the points. Schumacher 17th, so not great.
No,
Miami, you have Schumacher 15th, Magnussen 16th, so that's not great.
no,
Um, and then Spain, you had Schumacher 14th, Magnussen 17th.
yeah,
Monaco was they were 19th and 20th. They both DNF, right? Right. Forgot about
yeah.
that.
So I think the issue is
Yeah.
more that we expected them to do better this year, and it just hasn't happened.
Well, I think it was also they came out swinging in
Yeah,
Bahrain. Like they really put in a solid race, and everyone was
yeah,
like, "Oh man, here we go! It's Haas's year." And then they've not been able to follow that up. So I don't know.
yeah, yeah. They're always going to be midfield or the back of the midfield. They're going to be the Williams type team. I mean, Williams is Williams, and then you got Haas. Unfortunately,
Well, in the
it's
standings right now, they're actually eighth, tied with Aston Martin. Haas is, and Williams is
even after
10th. With
today.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. They're both on 15 points, whereas Williams is in 10th on 3 points.
I think Aston Martin has a better team. They're going to wind up doing better than Haas at this point. Well, except for Stroll. Yeah, there's for the first time I've heard, there's been some YouTube stuff on, Schumacher's time coming past, He did so well in Formula 2 and Formula 3. I mean, he just
Yeah,
tore up those other leagues, but that does not always translate
yeah.
to Formula 1 for whatever reason. So,
Yeah, that we've seen that with a number of drivers. I mean, even like Albon and Ocon both did really, really, really well in the
yeah.
junior Formula Series, but in F1, they've been good, but they haven't been like
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, but Leclerc came up through there and look at him. He's just
Yeah, I
doing
know, but
great.
then yeah, but then you have the other drivers like Leclerc, even Lando Norris has
Yeah.
done really well in F1.
Yeah.
And obviously Verstappen, but he barely spent any time in the junior Formula Series.
Yeah.
But he is kind of
Yeah.
an anomaly, but at any rate, yeah. So, since we're on the kind of constructors standings at the minute, Red Bull is clearly out in front now, 80 points ahead of Ferrari,
Yeah.
and Red Bull is on 279 points. Ferrari is on 199. And then Mercedes, not that far back from Ferrari, are on 161.
Wow.
So they're 30 odd points back.
What about the drivers' championship, though?
Well, let me run through the rest here really quick.
Okay,
You
okay.
have Mercedes on 161 and McLaren on 65. So
Ugh,
they're almost 100 points back from Mercedes at this point.
yeah.
And then Alpine is kind of catching McLaren. They're on 47 points with Alfa Romeo right behind them on 41.
Yep.
And then AlphaTauri on 27. Then, like we said, Haas and Aston on 15 and Williams on 3. So drivers at this point, though, Max Verstappen on 150 points even. And Perez, not that far back on 129. So that's what, 21 points back?
Yeah. That's the key, though.
Yeah.
You have Red Bull drivers are first and second in the drivers' championship.
Yeah.
That this
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
huge.
And then
This is
Leclerc
this
on
is this is this
116.
is a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. But
The
then
f
Leclerc in
Yeah.
third on 116 with Russell not that far back on 99. So he's 17 points
Right.
behind Leclerc.
And
Russell is.
he hasn't done that he's just consistently
He's
mediocre.
consistent. I like that term that Toto Wolff gave him, Mr. Consistency. He
Yeah.
was previously known as Mr. Saturday for all of his
Right, right.
heroic qualifyings that he did in Williams, but like Mr.
Yeah.
Consistency this year,
Yeah,
absolutely.
he's consistently, like, 3rd or 4th or 5th or whatever he can get, but he just
He's
always
literally
shows
finished in
up.
the top 5 every single race, and I think
Right.
he's the only driver to do that.
Yeah, that's why he's so far up in the points.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that's the thing. So, this is interesting because you do have Red Bull drivers 1 and 2. Leclerc is no longer not he's just not the number 1 driver. He's not the number 2 driver. He's the number
Yeah,
3
he's
driver, and that's
what
gotta
is that?
hurt.
34 points back? I'm bad at
I mean,
math. He might be
that's
44 points.
I'd have to hear the numbers again. I hate
150 to
to
116. I don't I'm
Wow,
bad at math.
150 to 116? Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
150.
34. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
34.
34 points back. Yeah.
Or is it 44?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think it's
20,
34.
30. It's 34,
I think it's 34.
yeah. Wow. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Which is
Okay,
that
this
is a
is interesting.
substantial gap. Like
Yeah.
he would okay, let me actually pull out a calculator here. All right, let me
Wow.
see. That's
Oh,
34
it's
points.
34, yeah.
Let's do divided by 7 because that's usually he would need to in 5 races. He would need to finish 1-2 with him beating Verstappen, assuming Verstappen comes in second. He would need to win in 5 races to make up that deficit.
Assuming that Verstappen finishes second?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like if they finish it, basically it would take 5 races of him winning
Oh,
of Leclerc winning to make that deficit back. Yeah.
and Verstappen finishing in a second.
Second or worse, but yeah. Let's
Okay.
just assume that Verstappen takes second in all 5 of those races. That
Yeah.
would still it would still
It
take
would
5
take 5.
for
Yeah. So
Leclerc to
at the very least, it would take 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at the
At the very
very
least, it would take 5
yeah,
races for him
yeah.
to get back.
Well, no, actually at the
Whatever.
most.
I hope you know what I mean.
Well, at the most it would take well,
Yeah,
it
okay.
depends
No,
how you
that's fair
look
because
at it.
if Verstappen gets some
If
DNFs, that would make
Verstappen
that a lot
DNFs,
quicker.
then it's
But
only 1 or 2 races,
yeah.
but
So,
but
assuming that they both finish and
yeah.
assuming that Max gets second, Leclerc
Yeah.
would need 5 races to make
Yeah,
that
I think
deficit back.
this race, the real news is what we covered. The real news is that okay, we got a Red Bull 1-2. This is
Yeah.
great. Perez had a great weekend.
Oh
He
yeah.
easily could have set pole again. Where like Monaco could have been Sights, and this year it
Yeah,
could have been
we
Perez.
didn't even mention this. He outqualified Max again. Like we didn't even touch on that. He outqualified Max for the second week in a
Yeah,
row
yeah,
or the second race in a row.
yeah. He did really well.
He's on fire. I think he signed that new contract right before the Monaco weekend, and I think that was just like, okay, they have that much confidence in me that they're giving me a 2-year extension. That
Yeah,
like, yeah, let's do this, let's go, and I love
yeah.
to see it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, he's definitely got his confidence back. They're gonna let what
yeah,
there were probably some things he didn't want to get into, but they're gonna let him race.
yeah,
He probably had some concessions in there, that allowed him to be more competitive.
yeah,
And I think that's what encouraged him because if a guy knows he's not going to win, he's not going to race for the win. That's all there is to
yeah.
it.
Well, and
So
I was really, really glad to see there does seem to be there's been some rumors rumbling about the a little bit of inner turmoil in Red Bull about who's in the Max camp or the let them fight camp, and it's
yeah, I
just
think we
like
talked about that
I
last
think
week.
that's
That's such BS.
it is a little bit, but
Oh,
at the same
absolutely,
time
it's
you do
100%
have
BS.
well, hold on. You do have Jos Verstappen popping off about like, team orders and stuff about like they should be doing everything to let Max win. And it's like, well, it's his kid, so I get that. But like,
Well, that's different than Max and Checo not getting along.
oh
Those
yeah,
guys have a great
that was my
relationship.
point.
Yeah.
That was my point was that the two drivers don't seem to have that perspective at all.
No, 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 no.
Whereas
You
there
know,
seems to be
he's a
rumors
stage
of other
mom.
people in the team that do, but they
Well,
don't. They seem to be very
yeah.
happy with each other, very happy in their respective
Yeah,
positions.
Joe's isn't in the he's not in the team. He's being a stage mother. He needs to go
Yeah,
away.
well,
So, yeah, and I don't put much stock into that.
but I was just glad to see after the race, Perez and Max joking with each other, talking as they normally do.
Oh yeah.
And then in the interview where the interviewer, I forget her name, asked him about the don't fight. Perez was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, it was the right call. It was the team, team strategy is fine." And I'm like, good
Yeah.
to see that from Perez. So,
Well, and again, this is when they got into a little bit in the post race show, but I did not take "don't fight" as a team order. He didn't say
no,
don't race him. He didn't say don't try to pass him. He just said don't fight. Like don't when you're fighting for the corner, you're gonna take
yeah,
chances.
yeah,
And there's times where you may have to fight for every corner and you're gonna take chances and you're gonna be on the edge. Basically, what he's saying is, look, okay, you guys race, but don't be morons and take each other out. We're not doing
right.
that.
Yeah, no, that's how I took it, was they were looking at it going, "Okay, we have an almost guaranteed because Leclerc hadn't retired yet. We
Yeah,
have an almost guaranteed 1-2. Let's not throw that away. Just keep it clean, be
yeah,
safe." Like, that's
yeah,
how I took it.
yeah.
So,
And but other people were trying to say, oh, that could be team
right, right.
orders.
Yeah, because drama
No, it's
sells, but,
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly.
but
So yeah, anyway, I didn't think
well,
that was anything.
we've been talking for a little over an hour. Anything else you wanna cover?
Well, other than the fact that we're racing next weekend, which is going to be exciting.
Yeah.
And again, Montreal, pray for rain.
Yeah.
Hashtag pray for rain.
Uh,
That I think that'll be great. And other than that, I just think this is each race. It's exciting. What's exciting is there is no predicting. There's absolutely no predicting the results of a race.
yeah.
We're going to be following the news during the week to see where Ferrari is on determining the cause of their problems.
Yeah,
If you're
yeah.
if you're really into this, then that I would definitely be paying attention to that. Keep an eye
Yeah,
on your
yeah.
favorite other channels and figure out who's got news because we don't post daily, so we don't have
Right, right.
news updates. But anyway,
Yeah, usually the race is really good about that. They'll probably post a couple of
hmm
times during the week. They're my favorite news outlet for F1. It's
yeah,
just the-race.com, I think, and
yeah,
they also have a YouTube channel. So I would recommend them.
and they're not super clickbaity.
No, no, no. They're very matter of fact. They're great.
Like a lot like a lot of them are. Hamilton to retire. Then you click
Right.
on it.
Yeah. No, they don't
It's
run
like,
stuff
well,
like that.
someday he's gonna retire. So it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Looking at the 7-day weather forecast though for Canada,
Yeah,
obviously anything can change within the
yeah,
next literal 7 days from now because we do
yeah,
record these on Sunday.
yeah.
Um yeah, it's at 9 p.m. is when the peak is of 35% chance of rain on Sunday, and I don't think they race that late.
No, no, no,
Let me
no,
see
no.
when
No,
they when the actual
it's a day race.
yeah.
Probably starts at
The
3,
schedule, yeah, the race is at 1 it's at 1 p.m. So at
1
at
p.m.
around 1 p.m. there's like a 9% chance of
What
rain.
about
So
Friday, Saturday?
Friday there's a much higher percent. It's basically a 60% chance all day on Friday.
Okay,
But
so
Saturday it's
practice.
by Saturday at like 9 a.m. it's like a 10% and then it kind of follows off for the rest of the day.
Okay, well,
So
yeah. So we may have a practice session that's rained out on Friday.
yeah. So for the race, it's like it's possible, but at this point seems
Yeah,
unlikely. But
we'll
anything can
see.
happen in a week.
Well, that'll be interesting.
So
Okay, well, we'll see
yep,
what happens then on qualifying in the race. But
yep. Alrighty. Well, anything else before we wrap up?
no, let me think. No, I don't think there was anything else. I think
Okay.
we covered pretty much everything, and we just have to
Alrighty.
wait and see what's going on with Ferrari.
Alrighty. Well, thanks so much for tuning in. We will be back in 1 week's time, as we've said, for our weekend recap of the Canadian Grand Prix. So be sure to tune in then. Thanks so much for tuning in today, and take care of yourselves.